All right, guys. Our next guest, once again, has a tall task ahead of him at UFC 271 as he corners and leads the CKB Army into Houston, Texas, with Blood Diamond kicking off the card, then Carlos Ulberg, and then culminating with one of the biggest fights of the year as Israel Adesanya rematches Robert Whittaker for the UFC middleweight belt. The head of CKB himself and the man behind the man, the legend himself, Eugene Bareman. Welcome back to the show, man. How are you? Sporting an awesome Blood Diamond tee, no less.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here, lads. I enjoy having a chat with you guys every now and then.
Every now and then, all the time. We always love chatting to you. It's like some interviews aren't the greatest, but I have a good feeling about this one. Hey, just quickly before we get into the fights, what is going on with your government? Because last time we spoke to you, everything looked like it was good to go. Everyone was going to be able to fly in and out, and things were back to normal. Now we're seeing stuff with some of my family in New Zealand where it's like, sorry, guys, we don't actually know when people will ever be able to visit Australia ever again. So does that mean you guys are moving again? What is going on?
Yeah, well, let's put us in something we haven't been talking about because we think it's just not prudent to really bring it up because we can't change it, is that our team's going to be stuck after this. For the first time, particularly the coaches, this will be the first trip in 2 years where we don't have a path home. Like, we will effectively be stuck. So ordinarily in this situation, for at least the championships, guys like Israel and Alex, we wouldn't take the fight if we were all going to be stuck. But we did commit to the fight, and then Jacinda pulled those dates. She retracted the dates we were opening up, so we were kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place in regards to that. So why we haven't brought this up is because we can't bring a negative mindset into what we're doing. So we don't think about that. Obviously, that's a tremendous weight on everybody's shoulders being stuck there. But we're compartmentalizing it. We're going to deal with the fight, and then we're going to see where the chips fall after that, and we're going to deal with those problems after that. And that's just the best way that we've figured out to deal with this.
For those that don't realize, there was a lottery system. It was pretty crazy already and didn't make much sense. But the government basically was just like, hey, no more lottery system. We're just going to basically pause everything, which is like, you're like, could it get any worse? And then it happened. So from that perspective, I guess you guys are just going to be over in Houston, and Eugene's going to be enjoying some nice barbecue and watching the Houston Rockets and some NBA, or maybe there's a silver lining here, or how do you look at that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like I said, I'm trying not to give it too much thought, but we'll try and find a silver lining. But yeah, realistically, it's tremendously stressful for me. Like, I've got coaches over there that have families. I've got family myself, businesses that I got going over here. Man, I got fighters that are be back here without their coaching team. I got Dan Hooker's fighting, Cara France is fighting. We don't know when we're going to be back. We might not be. We realistically could not be back for their entire camp. So it's underneath all of it it's actually tremendously stressful, which is why we've sidelined it and put it to the side, and we'll deal with that after.
All right. Well, we won't talk about it anymore because obviously it's, we're almost fight week, but we wanted to kind of paint a picture of just some of the things that you guys go through that people, sometimes don't realize. They think, oh yeah, fight week, business as usual. It's not. There's a lot of things that fighters, teams and camps go through that, people don't always realize. But okay, looking at the fight itself, as a coach, you've got the tall task at hand. You thought it was Derek Brunson for a long time. 100% you thought it was Derek Brunson. 100% you're serious about that. But here we are. Israel and Robert Whittaker. This could be the greatest competitive rivalry in the middleweight UFC division in history. As a coach, What have you made of Robert Whittaker's improvements over the last 3 fights against Darren Till, Jared Cannonier, and Kelvin Gastelum? And is there anything in particular that stands out to you as a threat for Israel?
Yeah, it was never Jared Brunson. Come on, boys.
I know.
But no, like he's made tremendous improvement over those 3 fights, and I mean, those 3 fights have made us tidy a few things up, and obviously showed some other vulnerabilities that we didn't see in his previous body of work. So it's a bit of both. He's got better. He's showed some vulnerabilities that we didn't see so much as his previous body of work. So yeah, we're just. I mean, this camp's been a tough one. This camp, like we've really, you're always battling with your kind of like moral consciousness, like against complacency. So like you're like, man, rematches are so hard. The guys always train twice as hard for the rematch. So then that kind of reflects how we start to train, and then it kind of just escalates like that, and then we end up just like we always do. But I feel like this camp has been an exhausting one where we've really tried to put complacency on the back burner and just like work to the limit of where we should be working. So it's just been an exhausting camp.
Does that have to do with the fact that the first fight, Israel was so dominant, put on such a great performance? And does it come from the perspective of how do you motivate yourself for Rob when you've already put on such a great performance? And for a lot of people, it looked so seamless, at Marvel Stadium when he did it. So is a part of the job for you to create some of that danger and create some of those stakes in the gym for him to keep him motivated, would you say?
Exactly. Like you win in that fashion. That little complacency kind of devil that sits on your shoulder, like you just you're hyper aware of it, so you really want to not fall victim to it. So we like you kind of almost push things to the absolute limit because you've got that thing on your conscience all the time. So in terms of like motivating him to kind of get up for this fight and train hard, it hasn't been too difficult. We've really emphasized that that Robert has more to give. But we haven't forgotten that Israel had a whole lot more to give as well. So as Robert gives more, Israel also has much more scope to give in the fight. So this fight will be a bit more interesting. Yeah,
well, that's kind of the story here, right? Like Israel spoke a lot about how seriously he's taking Robert because of the fact that Robert admitted his mistakes and sort of owned them, unlike, say, Paulo Costa or Marvin Vettori. What does that tell you about Robert, seeing him admit that like things got in his head and his ego got in the way? It's not really something that you see all too often. And because of that, is that one of the main reasons why you're expecting a different Robert? And maybe the fight won't be, as quick as it was the first time?
That's what I expect from Robert. Like, Robert is one of the best in the world because of that attitude, because he's, over the course of his career, he's been able to, him and his coaching team and himself, has been able to remove his ego out of the situation and recognize his mistakes. And a lot of fighters, they can't do that. They can't take a step back and understand that they've made mistakes. And then if you don't recognize that you're making a mistake, you can't change. So, I mean, Israel has a very similar attitude. You can always tell by the way these guys lose. You know, you can tell how a fighter will come back. And Robert, I believe, lost to Israel well. Like he lost to Israel well. He knows the situation. He acknowledged the situation. He got thoroughly beaten, and that's the only way you can come back. When Israel lost to Jan, he understood the situation. He knows he got thoroughly beaten, and he recognized the mistakes, and he came back. That's a champion's attitude. That's how you really, reach the pinnacle in the sport.
When you look at
so it's expected. I expected that attitude from Robert.
How much of the result of the first fight do you think was to do with, the ego and the fighting out of character, as opposed to just, maybe the difference in skills and the game plan between Robert and Israel?
No, I don't know. I don't know what percentage to attribute each to, but yeah, I mean, Robert, like when Robert entered the cage, and I watched Robert enter the cage many hundreds of times before that, and so had Israel, and he stepped through the gate. Me and Israel looked at each other, and I said to Israel, "You can see it, can't you?" Because we felt, and maybe we're wrong, but we felt that we could see the weight of the occasion on his shoulders. And so we both acknowledged each other. As soon as he stepped in, we observed his mannerisms, and we looked into his eyes. And I turned to Israel and said, "You can see it, eh?" And what that meant was we both felt mutually that the occasion was just too much for him. It was like, you could just almost like see it like bearing down on him, and you could feel it and see it in him. And so we do think that played a factor. And then obviously we think we've got the better fighter, so that played a factor as well. But I don't know, like I can't really attribute a percentage of whether Israel's just a more skillful fighter or Robert let the occasion get to him. Bit of both, really. Can't say how much on each side of that.
There were a few spicy press conferences as well, a few spicy back and forths, and it seemed like, I'm not saying that it had a lot to do with it, but it did seem like a part of maybe Rob's dislike for Israel came from some of those press conferences and some of those back and forths. And now here he is, he says he's kind of like put the hate aside, and the ego isn't really a part of it. But what are you expecting from sort of this version of Rob and this version of Israel when they come face to face in Houston? And I mean, Israel is really great on the mic, and things are kind of different until both fighters are back in the same room facing each other again. Are you expecting the same kind of stuff from him, or do you think it's going to be a little bit different this time?
Sorry, boys, have I got you?
Yeah, you're back.
Someone called through. Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know which way Israel will swing, if he'll take a dig at Robert. I feel like this fight's more business. Like, we just want to get on with the business. We've been like, there hasn't been a lot of press from Israel. I think Robert maybe has done a bit. I don't know how much press he's done. But yeah, I mean, like, like I said, you can't fighters at the end of the day, they need a reason to kind of justify things, right? And a very good reason for Robert to justify him getting like easily beaten, and one that his team and that should definitely use as justification, to kind of help rebuild Robert is that, yeah, the occasion did get to him. Israel did get to him. But, like, use that for sure. But whether that's actually real or not, I don't know. Robert, to me, was always very level-headed guy before that. You know what I'm saying? He was always very level-headed. He hadn't really showed too much signs of that sort of thing getting to him before, poking at him. I mean, his team and himself are definitely using that to help kind of attribute this loss to, and that's exactly what you should do. But don't give that too much credence. Like, I mean, that for sure might be a part of it, but it's not as big a part of it as they're trying to say it is. And rightfully so. That's what a team should do. They should find something like that, and they should attribute that loss to that, the fact that Israel was in Robert's head. But yeah, come on, man. That's not this Robert. Robert was the champion of the world, and he had reigned for a while. Like, you don't just all of a sudden get picked on by some guy from New Zealand and then you just fall apart. Like, but like I said, there's reasons that teams and himself attribute the loss to, because that's an easy thing to do. It's an easy thing to come back from. You got to psychologically build yourself up again. But I'm not going to give that too much credence.
What do you think it says about Israel to beat, the 2022 version of Robert Whittaker? People have obviously been so impressed with, how he's done over these last few fights to sort of claw his way back up to this rematch. If Israel can beat this version, what do you think it says about him? And also, like, hearing you talk about just how, exhausting the camp is, it just shows just how you're pulling at all the stops because of how seriously you take this task. If assuming Israel wins, is that it? Is that it for the Robert Whittaker and Israel Adesanya sort of, saga, so to speak?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. Like, I think Robert definitely earned his way back here. If you look at the three tough opponents that he's fought, well-credentialed opponents, dangerous opponents, and he's managed to beat all of them. He earned his spot back here. I mean, Israel's just like I think he just needs to further cement that there's, in similar fashion to like an Anderson Silva did, or George St. Pierre, like there's the pack, and then there's Israel. You know what I mean? So there's everybody else in the division, and then there's Israel, and there's an ever widening gap between the two. And obviously he showed that in the Vittori fight, and he just needs to continue to widen that gap and just show everybody that there's a massive discrepancy between what the middleweight division is and what the champion is.
Yeah. Speaking of discrepancies, there are huge discrepancies between, some of the pay-per-view prices out there, depending on which country and region you are in. I know that the pay-per-view price has gone up, but here in Australia, the pay-per-view prices, at least from, me buying UFC 270, they seem to be staying down. So if you could do something to make your computer or TV think that you're in a different country, you could be saving a little bit of money, actually quite a lot of money. With NordVPN, you've got the world's best VPN that can allow you to do that with a single touch of a button. You can access content from thousands of servers from over 59 different countries just by changing your virtual location with one click. Also, you can surf and browse and check whatever you want. We don't know what you're looking at, and we don't want to know what you're looking at. NordVPN does not store any kind of data or collect any information about what you look at. There's also no bandwidth throttling, and there's no buffering. I hate it with inferior VPNs when you're watching something, whether it's YouTube or Netflix or, a UFC pay-per-view or anything, and then it's constantly buffering and lagging. You don't get any of that with NordVPN. In fact, I have it on basically permanently on my little Firefox or Chrome extension, and that way nothing gets tracked and everything is always quick, amazing speed thanks to NordLynx Plus, it opens up a whole new world on your streaming services like Netflix. Let's say you're in Australia and there's certain things in the US or the UK that are showing, but they're not here in Australia. You change your location and bang, you've got all sorts of new movies and videos in your catalog. Isn't that right, Dennis?
Yeah, man. And listen, security is a serious thing. Like when you're traveling and you're connecting to different Wi-Fis all around the world, you don't know what kind of information they're taking off you. You don't know what kind of information you got on your stored on your phone right now. You might have your PayPal info or your credit card info, and bang, when that's gone, that's a real issue. So make sure you have some real security thanks to NordVPN. You guys could go to nordvpn.com/submission now, or use the code word submission to get up to 70% off the NordVPN plan, plus 1 additional month for free. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Jump on it today and secure your internet thanks to NordVPN. And Cass, this weekend, massive fights coming up. Obviously, we're super excited. Eugene Bareman's getting us really ready, properly ready for this Israel Adesanya Robert Whittaker fight. What about Carlos Ulberg? What about Blood Diamond making his debut on the card? There's only one place to go to make some serious money on the action. That is with our friends at MyBookie. You guys can double your first deposit with a code word submission. Now, look at these odds as we're recording right now. The odds, for example, Derek Brunson, Jared Cannonier, Derek Brunson plus 155, Jared Cannonier minus 190. Very interesting fight with a lot on the line for the division. And of course, the main event, Robert Whittaker at a plus 210, Israel Adesanya minus 270. Man, that is going to be a crazy fight. What kind of bets are you going to be putting down? Will you be going round by round? Will you be going by the stoppage? Will you be just going in general and seeing who wins what? There is only one place to do it, at MyBookie with a code word submission. Double that first deposit today. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with our friends at MyBookie, Cass.
That's right. Speaking of friends, fellas, don't forget Valentine's Day is just around the corner. Don't let your balls get neglected. Make sure you're prepared with the black belt of grooming tools, the Manscaped Lawnmower 4.0 with over 7,000 RPM of pure power, the skin-safe technology, so never shave off a nut or cut yourself again. You've got the LED light. It's waterproof. It's got a travel lock. It's got a wireless charger. It just can't get any easier to be prepared. The pound for pound greatest grooming tool in the world. And if you get the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0, you get the lawnmower itself, you get the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. You also get the Crop Preserver ball deodorant and then the Crop Reviver ball deodorant. So let's say you're on a nice date, grabbing some drinks on Valentine's Day and your balls aren't too fresh. You splash on the Reviver ball toner and all of a sudden you're back in the game. Throw in there a bag and some free underwear. You can't go wrong. Isn't that right, Dennis?
Oh, man, this thing is a game changer, whether you're training BJJ, MMA, or just want to go on a date without, any negativity going down when she sees what's going on downtown. Manscaped makes it all happen. And don't forget that this thing is so little and easy to use that you can take it anywhere with you. It charges up for a really long time, so you don't have to worry about charging it every time that you use it or have to buy new batteries. This thing is an absolute game changer. Go to Manscaped today and use the code word submission for free shipping and 20% off. So do it today because I'm telling you right now, whether you need to do your sports, whether you need to go on your dates, whether it's just travel, whatever it is, it changes your life forever. Now, Huge, on a bit of a side note, we see Kamaru Usman's manager calling for a middleweight fight between Usman and Israel. He believes the two aren't really close enough to where it would stop them from fighting. I'm just wondering, do you think we could see a fight like that happen in the near future?
Yeah, look, that's like Kamaru's team. That's his team. And that's the way that they do things. But my team is my team. And we walk a different path to Kamaru and the people that he puts around him. So I don't speak on that because that's called respect. So Israel and Kamaru are friends. Respectfully, I'll never talk about them fighting. Israel's already said they won't fight. Israel says they're good friends. I know a little bit about their relationship, and just that's like I said, out of respect, I'm not even going to even talk about that or contemplate it. Just in the same way that Kamaru and Israel don't, and no one in my team would. That's Kamaru's team and Kamaru's manager, and they do things differently. And if Kamaru's manager doesn't have the same respect that I do for Israel in a relationship, then that's between them. I got nothing to do with them, so I don't care on the matter.
Out of curiosity, like I can't stop sort of hyping up like how big of a fight this is for the middleweight division. But with a win here, where do you think Israel sort of goes weight class wise?
Yeah, I'm gonna let's put my best guess forward, but I think another middleweight fight. But we set ourselves a goal that we didn't accomplish. Those goals, they just don't disappear. They don't just go away. They you just keep striving for them. So let me just say that.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's going to be fascinating as well, because obviously Jared Cannonier and Derek Brunson are going to be on the same card as you guys. So you'll be busy, but I suppose if you do get a chance, you'll see a little bit of the fight out of the corner of your eye, and that could be potentially the next fight for Israel. Sometimes I wonder, Eugene, obviously Israel is a once-in-a-lifetime type of fighter. It doesn't really seem like the UFC really promote him that much. Like, obviously he's the champ. We see some of the promos for the fights, but a talent like his doesn't come around very often. Do you feel like the UFC is sort of pushing him and putting him out there as much as they should be? Because sometimes it's like you almost forget he's on the roster if you're not watching something to do with UFC 271, like right before the events are happening. You don't really see many ads, or you don't really see many toys and just different things that they would do behind the marquee fighter such as himself.
You are correct. You are correct, 100% correct. But I'm not at the moment willing to talk about this particular subject. At the moment, I'm sorry, boys, I can't.
No, that's okay. We understand. It was just a bit weird for us. That's why we brought it up, because
it's 100% the correct observation. The correct observation. He's not being nowhere near pushed the way he should, but there's stuff that I can't talk about in regarding to that, so I'll just leave it as a no comment. But your assumption is correct. I can at least agree with that.
Okay. Well, obviously, this is, I think, one of 2 fights left on the contract. So I guess, it'll be interesting to see, how the future plays out. I'm sure we'll touch on it in the future. But no worries. It's basically fight week, so we're not going to bog you down with that. I do want to talk about Carlos Ulberg, though, because obviously you've got all these CKB guys on the card. He suffered his first career loss. I'm trying to think how it was a while ago. What is the biggest key for you as a coach and Carlos heading into this this fight where he wants to obviously bounce back?
Yeah, I mean, mindset, like understanding the environment you're in and not letting it get to you. Carlos got backed into a corner in his last fight, and he's been in that place before in kickboxing, and he's found his way out of this spot. So why couldn't he find his way out of that spot in this fight? He let the occasion and he let the pressure and he let the whole experience get to him, and he wasn't able to refocus himself and get his mind to the right spot. Underneath, I'm talking about the underlying reasons why that happened. I'm not talking. Obviously, he had a very good opponent and that used a great strategy, but underlying all of that, like what happened. And so, like this one, he's had that experience under his belt now. He's got his first fight out of the way. Now he just needs to treat this like one of the many fights he's had in his career, and so it's just not letting the occasion of being in the UFC, the biggest and best promotion in the world, get to him. Yeah, that's what we've been working on.
It's going to be exciting to see him back. And also, of course, the UFC debut of Blood Diamond. And man, that is a cool T-shirt as well for people that are at home wondering that that's an Engage.
That's sick.
T-shirt right there, I believe, huge, that people can grab online right now. Hopefully, if it's not sold out.
This is just a Blood Diamond T-shirt. Sometimes he's quite creative. He just makes his own T-shirts. So.
Oh wow!
Whoa.
So where could people get this bad boy? Do you know?
This was a limited edition, so like.
Whoa.
Damn.
Okay. Well, people need to jump on and start hitting up Blood Diamond after fight week, because that is a mad T-shirt, and I know I'd grab one today. He's got his debut, obviously, at UFC 271 this week. And for those that haven't seen him fight yet, obviously they've heard a lot about him. The team always discusses how great he is as a teammate and how much he contributes to CKB. They would have seen a few highlights here and there on Instagram, but what can they expect from this debut? And if they don't really know him very well, just break him down a little bit for fans who are super excited to see this debut.
Well, honestly, like I've given up many years ago predicting what you're gonna see in this fight, because I honestly don't know what happened. Like you can't describe his style as like no style. His style is like makes it up on the spot and does things just about every fight that we've never even seen before in the gym. So, yeah, like expect the unexpected. Expect a strange looking fight. Expect Bloods to do things against convention, to drop his hands, go the wrong way, turn around backwards, spin on his head, to do things that are just abnormal. But he's found a way over an extensive career to make them work. I've given up trying to figure out what he does. So I just point him in the right direction and I just say, go that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll see something exciting and you'll see something you've never seen before. But yeah, it's exciting.
I can't wait, man, especially like when you watch Israel's fight camp videos. I like the part where you're yelling at the guys about like, that's a defeat, you know, when you do this, when you do that, that's considered a defeat. It just shows how you guys are pulling out all the stuff. Do you think it's possible for Israel to beat Rob even more impressively than the first time? I know that's the goal that he's setting for himself. It's a tall task considering how the first one ended.
Look, no, people aren't going to agree with me, but the ultimate thing you can do in fight sports, I think, is not a knockout. It's a whitewash. And so what I would like to happen is just a 5-round whitewash where there is no stoppage this time, but like every round is just accumulative damage. And just it just leaves no doubt. It just leaves no doubt. It's 25 minutes of mastery.
I'm guessing you guys are expecting a lot more grappling this time around, at least from Robert Whittaker's side, like trying to do, you know, a similar sort of Jan Blachowicz game plan, or at least mix things up.
Yeah, mix things up a bit. I don't think. Yes, I like the Jan Blachowicz things. I think they're like they have a very smart team. These guys. I studied them extensively for the first fight, and I quickly figured out that they're an elite team. They're a very smart team. They're not. They know they can't transpose what Jan did to Israel. They can take. There's little things you can take, but at the end of the day, you got to work with the athlete that you've got in front of you. So, and they understand that they don't have a Jan in front of them. So, they're too smart to do that. So, but yeah, I expect. I expect a little bit less panic and a little bit more respect from Robert. I expect him to not be so aggressive this time. That's the only thing I can kind of take a good calculated guess at.
Well, as we wrap, Eugene, just want to quickly congratulate you before fight week even starts. I feel like this is lost, but UFC 271, you have another 3 great fighters from, and from New Zealand, representing Australasia, representing CKB, yet again on one card, which is not an easy feat to do, which is something that not many coaches are able to do. So congratulations to you for making history yet again in Houston just before things even start. And another takeover over there. And guys, make sure to follow City Kickboxing at City Kickboxing on Instagram and Facebook. Of course, UFC 271 is where it all goes down. And we appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much, Huge. Best of luck with everything. We can't wait to see the fights.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. Good chat. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Huge. Appreciate it. Bye.